Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I am your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pinellas Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I'm in the Extreme Studios with RDV from the Great Midwest joining me tonight. We are reminiscing backstage about what it means to talk about with Miami Vice Season 1, Episode 10. Tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Give a little, take a little. And we were talking about what's like, when you give yourself, a little bit of a chance to do something cool, like
Mhm.
you got your BMX bike, and then you like get ball shotted, nut shotted, or God forbid you ever get your jeans caught in the spokes or whatever
Right.
like that, or it's just kind of nasty. Why am I mentioning this? Because that's reminiscing about what may have happened one day in our youth is a bit more enticing than this episode because I gotta be honest with you, RDV, this episode's functional. It's there. If I'm gonna clip one out of what we've seen so far, this is probably gonna race up to the top of my list. It's it's dark, but I don't think it takes itself
Yeah.
as dark as it is because of what happens, which we'll get into. And yes, it has Polly. We love Polly, and Polly's a weird fucking
Well,
bastard in here.
it's
And we get
got
the girls turning into whores, which would be a common theme here in Miami Vice. But
sure. Well, that's part of the Vice thing. There's always ones that work undercover, in the prostitution
that's right.
because that's where all the drugs are. So yeah, I was surprised about this because I was going through it again, and I forgot that Michael Madsen and Terry Quinn are in this.
How well do you know Terry O'Quinn?
Terry Quinn was John Locke on Lost.
Yes. He was
But-
also in X-Files and the show after that with Lance Henriksen, Millennium, where he was fantastic in it.
Oh,
He also
Pix-
played a crazy father-in-law in the early 80s made-for-TV movie.
Professor Pix and I what we saw him was on Resident Alien.
Oh,
He
there
was-
you go.
He was the alien tracker. But
He's the
before
perfect
that,
example of
he
having
sh-
a fantastic career, and you don't even know who the guy is.
yeah, and before that though, he showed up over on this is after Lost, so he showed up on Supernatural.
Yes.
Yeah, so and I said it's been a fun time seeing more celebrity actors pop up in here at the time. Michael Madsen was pretty big, I'd say. I don't think he was because I had 9.5 weeks was that late 80s or is that mid 80s?
Well,
I thought he did some most. I know, or am I confusing him with Mickey Rourke?
you're confusing him with Mickey Rourke because that, I believe, was
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke. Michael Madsen, we would see a lot more in the 90s because of certain things or whatever. This is when he was kind of like up and coming.
Yeah, because I think Michael Madsen took off with Reservoir Dogs, right?
Well, one of the movies that you, me, and one of our great compatriots here on the Extreme Movie Show, Easy E, Eric Breen, as I like to refer to him, he was in Diner, and that's where you remember him from.
I'm trying to remember what year that was. That 82?
Diner was, I think, like 81, 82. Yeah, early there. It was a great movie. Yeah. So he's definitely on the ascension here in his career. And for those of you that are Twin Peaks fans, this is the only show we've covered every single episode of, including the movies. Lenny, the actor in here that plays the informant, the really soft-spoken, the really glassy, white eyes looking kind of guy, he played the orchid one that came to a very weird demise in Twin Peaks there too, where he talks to the chick and wants to give her some butters and saltines and wants to wash his hands. I'm saying that because if you're a Twin Peaks fan, you know exactly what that means.
Well, not for me. I'm not a Twin Peaks fan. I'm more of an X-Files fan, but Twin Peaks is, okay.
Yep.
I think Twin Peaks was a little more weirder, if anything, and that's the charm of it. A little bit like was because of the weirdness. But I gotta say though, you had the hot chick on there. I think Margaret or Martha or whatever her name is, real life.
No, there's several of them.
Or Malik, and it's something like that. Matchson. Her last name.
Madsen, Amchick, I think it is, or whatever. Yes.
Yeah, that one right there, because she appeared on some things too, and she actually later appeared on Riverdale.
Exactly, she was the mommy.
Yep, she was a Cooper.
Oof.
I know, right? Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you can just name off any show from the 80s, and then you'll okay, this has this actor, and then actor spawns off in 20 different things, and then but chances are you've probably seen at least one thing they've been in, and that's where you know them. And it's a joy bug when you're going back and looking at all their stuff. Hey, I know this person. Wow, they look young. Yeah. It doesn't matter what age you are when you're watching. It always happens.
Yeah,
So,
what I
but
thought was interesting about this episode, but it was a bit convoluted, is they didn't like it's not a light episode, like I say, it gets dark for other reasons that have nothing to do with the story
right,
to me,
right.
kind of. And what it is they're trying to press an informant to get some information or acting like bad cops and to go up to the big bad boss guy or whatever. And in the process of doing so, it sort of correlates with Gina and Trudy working the streets and all that too. So they really kind of set the episode up with the ladies, doing their shopping routine and all that. Because that's always a thing with the 80s, right? Buying their lingerie, and it's
Mhm.
like 80s style lingerie, and they're beautiful women. And we see them, get pimped out on
It's
the streets and everything. And Ziegler and Switek are acting like they're handlers, and they're posing from out of state, coming
well,
into Miami to be high rolling,
I
call
want to
girl escorts.
point out though that there's two things happen in this. Uh, well, we already talked about the fact that this is Judy and Gina's pretty much breakout as the girls episode.
Hmm.
But not in the sense we get like, it's like, yeah, screw you, boys, girls are better, blah blah. No, it wasn't any that nonsense like that. Which really helps out the episode. Um, but also this is also the second episode where they show you how the poor side of
Yes.
of Miami and all that stuff, which
Yes.
is renovation. Like, wait, there's a poor side? No, but yeah, the drug in town renovation stuff. So this is the second of 3 episodes. The one was last week's episode,
Hmm.
and now this week. So and I was reading up more about that. So basically, even after the show went off the air, they were still renovating it and stuff. So it took forever for them to
And
finish that.
also in the early 90s, South Florida became a hot spot because, like say Antonio Banderas was getting really, really hot. Madonna moved down there. Sylvester Stallone has a place there. So the whole South Beach, Coconut Grove area there,
Mhm.
downtown,
Yep.
Brickell Avenue, all that stuff, that got revitalized. A lot of money got dumped in there, and it became the Miami that what a lot of people know of as today. It's definitely
Yeah.
different than it was back in the
Especially,
70s and 80s.
not just Miami and stuff. You look at all that Tampa over there, Tampa Bay stuff. All those little areas on there, beaches on there, it became like the hot spot where, and it's not the first time where we had celebrities that moved down there before. I mean, just like in the 50s and 60s, you had everybody wanted to go to the coast, wanted to go to the Golden Coast because it was nice there. California, everybody moved down there. Los Angeles,
Mhm.
Myrtle Beach, So yeah, but it's honestly, I thought this was actually a decent episode. Polly from Rocky is
Burt
the main
Young.
is yeah, Burt Young is the main bad guy. Gina has to go undercover to go after to get this guy because this guy's a sleazeball. So he likes hookers. So he basically she has to worm her way in his good graces and stuff and then she's like okay, are you okay? You're right, because they sent somebody to try to whack her at her apartment, but Sonny and them showed up and helped her out. Um, but um, but yeah, what it comes down is basically is that when the guy wants to do the deed, she won't do the deed, and then he finds out she's a cop. He's pulled a knife on her, and I gotta say, for Burt Young, he played a little bit of sleazebag in Rocky. This was like taking it to the max, bro.
He's
Wow.
by far I'm not gonna say he's the best bad guy, but he's one of the most memorables up to this point because
Yes.
just how scary he is in here without talking and yelling.
Hmm.
There's a scene where, the guy that runs his club that was dealing with the escorts and all that too, he's like, "What
Yep.
do I pay you for? We've got an informant, when there's a wire, that means there's an informant. Well, what about this girl that you
Right.
just brought in?" And then he go through conversation, you can see the wheels turning, and he's like, "Okay," and that's when he sets up the plan to bring her there and
Yep.
basically screw her, literally, uh, to force her hand to see whether or not she's a cop, which is what happens.
Yep.
And, it's, uh, it's pretty dark because they don't show the act, but you can see her at the end with, Trudy kinda talking about it, and it's like and then when they go there to arrest them, because everything kinda coincides and all that, and he's
Yeah.
like, "You ain't gonna take me in. You ain't got the guts." He's, like, making a sandwich with a knife, and he turns
Yep.
around, and he just acts weird. If you've ever seen anybody on the streets that's
Yeah.
legitimate crazy, that's what they fucking look like. This is so fucking scary, bro. I mean, it really
It
is.
is. It is.
It's not fun.
No, it's not. Like I said, it's a very disturbing episode because and on Crockett and Tubbs will refuse to turn over their own informant, and they end up spending some time in jail. And so basically, this is just an excuse to get them so they can't be the main leads in this case, you know. Um, but yeah, this isn't the only time you'll see that these girls will take the lead again. I think there's at least one or two times before season 3, but I know in season 3 currently watching, they did take the lead, and then you start seeing Dwight taking, and then Zito start taking the lead a little more,
Right.
which isn't bad. But as we're talking backstage, is like this was kind of a nothing burger for me. Watching the second time, watching the first time, it was okay. I got through it. But as his member, it's like, man, Gina's hot. And that's pretty much about the episode. I was like,
it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a
good looking woman.
And it's something you've talked about before, because the tone of the series changes, let's say season 3-ish, without really saying what happens or why. But
yeah,
this is the first episode that's not fun.
No, yeah.
And I don't mind a serious episode that has a small fun segment in there, or some nice back and
This
forth
was a
banter.
preview for what comes in season 3.
I mentioned before that there's like sometimes a cynical nature to these episodes, especially the later the seasons go on. Usually, sometimes when a show goes on, it gets dumb or stupid, or doesn't take itself seriously anymore, or they're just going through emotions. I don't feel that Miami Vice did it. And as you continue to watch and review it over the years to come, I'm sure we'll discuss that more. But for me, I just go, I don't mind an episode that's not fun or whatever, but I want to be more emotionally invested in everybody, like Gina, because we have a little bit of an idea of her and Sonny, sort of kind of on and off or whatever, him getting divorced. And to basically have her raped right out of the gate early on, 10 episodes in, that's not a way to kind of like flesh out her character to me.
Right.
And so it loses its impact, even though you got a great creepy bastard in Burt Young. It's like, guys, why don't you save this for season 3 or 4 when you need something a little heavier? Usually when you start to kill people off or change something dramatically or whatever, just to get people's attention.
And that said, that's kind of the problem with it. I noticed that even before we got to season 3, you start noticing, and especially towards the end of the second season, not all the good people survive. Some actually become just another casualty, despite them trying to save them.
Right.
And one of those episodes is one that's led by Gina and Trudy, where Trudy's trying to reach out and help this woman to ID this guy who basically, has been bossing around, because she's a migrant or immigrant from Haiti. So you already start noticing, it's like, okay, we're starting to get a little more of these episodes popping in. But this right at episode 10, I was like, okay, it's right, because like you bring in you bring your buddy in here. What was his Chester? I forgot what his name was. Noogie. They bring Noogie back in here. It's like, okay, were we trying to make this a serious episode, or we're gonna have him be, a comedy thing? I was like, because you're not doing enough. Because right now it feels more serious, but then you have Noogie with a little bit of jokes, and even Crockett cracks in a few, Tubbs. But yeah, it's just like this was like very like just down like. I felt like I needed to have
it's a great chapter, but wrong place in the book for it.
What I felt like, it's kind of like I needed to have them like a preview of the coming up tonight on Miami Vice. Something blah blah happens. It's like, and like it's kind of like that Jonathan or the Taylor Thomas, like, Dad, I don't want to die on Home Improvement. like they need to have it. It's a serious thing matter is going to happen. It feels like you're getting a sitcom, kind of like they're like on Growing Pains.
Yeah.
No, so and so has been shot. Oh no! Find out. Tune in. It's like it's like this was like I was not expecting this, because this show has been kind of like on a loose cannon almost, and just been having fun, joy. There's been serious stuff, but we got past that, and I think the whole thing with Cardone was handled better.
Yep.
This was just I don't know what they were thinking doing this. I was trying to look up the director and the writer stuff. The director is Bobby Roth, and Chuck Adamson is the writer. But apparently, this guy is known for he did Crime Story with Dennis Farina.
Okay, good.
Yeah, 86. I also did Man Who Fell to Earth TV movie, 87. He did the Switch TV movie with Gary Cole, Boomtown. He did that, like in that. Numbers, Without a Trace, Prison Break. This feels you mentioned Prison Break, Lost. This starting to feel a little bit serious, and this kind of felt like he was directing a very serious kind of episode. Like you said, it should not have been here. Boomtown, Prison Break were 2005. Do them there. This is still 80s. This is still fun, and it just didn't feel like we're getting that. And it's funny as I look at his director appearances. As he goes forward, he goes from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, in '95. Then he goes to Boomtown in 2000s, Numbers, Without a Trace, Prison Break, Lost, Flash Forward, Revenge, Agents of Shield. You notice how the joy goes away as you get further into the future.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is with entertainment,
wow.
you know, you always say that pop culture is like a mirror of its time or whatever. But
Yeah.
again, you only have so many people producing so many things at the time. And Miami Vice was a show that, again, at the time, it wasn't really hot. People watched it. I watched it. Comp shows, though, in the '70s and television generally, the writing was so strong it peaked. It was very good, and it can be very intellectually good, and you can watch it to be mentally stimulated. But I do think that even though people say TV's trash and all, a lot of the older generation back then started noticing in the '80s there was a major drop off in quality, and they're like, yeah, they're just going for laughs. They're writing down lowest common denominator, all that kind of stuff. Instead of writing a novel, they're writing newspapers or whatever. And there's an element of truth to that, but at the end of the day, I still think when it comes to what you pick and choose to spend your time on with a movie or television, it's about, are you entertained? And for me, I can watch a show like I'm currently watching the second season of
Now
Beef,
I know
which is totally different. But the problem is again, you don't like any of the characters, but they're in interesting situations.
Now
So
I
you're not
know
really
what watched
emotionally
again.
attached to it. This was just too dark.
Well, speaking of dark, now I know why I hated this. Watch the second time around. This is the guy who directed episode 6 in season 3, Shadow of the Dark, where Crockett has to get in the mind of a burglar that's breaking into people's place, and it's supposed to be kind of making a almost like Red Dragon, where he's eating the raw meat and he's wrapping flour over his face, and Crockett goes almost crazy just trying to get the guy's mind.
About himself, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a major story arc coming up in season 3.
Oh my gosh! Like, and this felt just as dark as that, and I felt like it's so out of place. That's the reason why, and that's probably why I just don't like this episode as much. Especially, it probably doesn't help that I watched that episode. I'm on season 3 now, within the past week or two. You know,
it's the same feel.
Yeah.
Let's talk 2 things that were great about this episode. So Noogie's, is working the streets, and he gets some key information that he lets Crockett and Tubbs know later on, which ties them all in together for the final act. And the name of his street buddy, I couldn't listen to what he was saying, not because I wasn't paying attention or listening, but because the street name was so incredible. I wanted that to be where they go to commercial, come back, say the name again, because it's so awesome, and that's Trick Daddy.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it, what a great street name.
The other good thing about this episode is the Coupe de Ville. We finally get Tubbs' car. I love that.
Have you ever been in the Cadillac, sir?
Never been in the Cadillac, but I know they're very roomy, and if I got one, I think it'd be pink.
Smoothest ride I've ever been in. These old Cadillacs. Oh my God, they were just forever. They're just the sweet, sweet, sweet ride, bro.
You ever understand why they call a Cadillac converter, but if it's not attached to a Cadillac? Never bother you.
Catalytic converter. Oh, you dumbass. All right. No physics lost on you. Now, here's the thing I was thinking about. When I saw him in his Cadillac, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe they're going to get Noogie. Maybe this is going to be an episode where they're chasing down like a car thief, and all the car thief does is steal Cadillacs, and they need Noogie to kind of help point him away. And at the end of the episode, Tubbs ends up with a Cadillac. That would be cool and fun, right?
So this kind of feels like, if they're going to do a toy line, Crockett has his Ferrari, Tubbs has his Cadillac, and this thing, it's White Take has the Bugmobile, the Roachmobile van. If they ever did Hot Wheels this, they have to do those.
Well, you think of Dumb and Dumber, and they have the pet mobile that they drive off the dogs around.
Yeah,
I was thinking Switek.
I told you. You look at Zito. The way he dresses, he dresses like Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura. He even has the hair slicked up and everything, and he knows wears the white beater, and he wears the Hawaiian shirt and everything. And like I said, I guarantee you, Jim Carrey probably was a fan of Miami Vice, and he's like, you know what, that guy's kind of crazy. I like that look. Let's go with that.
All righty then.
All right. No. But like I said, everything's inspired by everything else. So I don't think Jim Carrey ripped off Zito, but I mean, I think it's more like playing tribute to the guy because he probably doesn't like what happens in season 3 either. You know?
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting because in the 80s, like I say, a lot of stuff was entertainment, but like say on Family Ties and a couple other shows, you would be dealing like with pregnancy, abortion, rape. Not often,
Yeah.
but once in a while you'd be like,
No.
okay, this is the serious episode of the season. And yeah, sometimes you would get like a PSA about it.
I still remember when DJ Tanner or the Stephanie drove the car into the house. Full house. I remember I was watching the kid. I was like, wow, who would what? Where's the driveway? How did she get into the back patio? it's like but yeah, the seriousness up on this, like I said, this really felt like a TGI Friday, like kind of like episode that like we just needed to have a preview, let you know that something's bad's gonna happen. Or have a warning, so it's like warning. This is a very serious episode. You're not allowed to have fun. We're tuned to our fun next week.
Well, the other thing too is I think the original air date on this was getting towards Christmas time, and at the time, you still had your major television events that would come on. Your ABC mystery movie of the week or whatever it is, and all that stuff. Columbo was out of rotation at this time, but you had signature events. If James Bond or like Star Wars or something came on television, it was a big deal. You knew it a month in advance, and so when you have shows like this is a late night Friday night show, right? So when you're going to have a 2, 3, 4 week break before January, sometimes you just shuffle your episodes that aren't so great there if you've got a backlog of a couple of them or whatever, right? Because usually it's 1 or 2 episodes, then you drop one of them and all that as you're filming. It just depends, right? And so again, you'd have Charlie Brown Christmas, Thanksgiving, all this stuff. You'd have these signature movies that would come out that would people watch. So on a Friday night, there's a big event. You go, you know what? We're not probably going to have a lot of viewership this week. Let's just put this one here or whatever. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what it felt like.
Do you know what really irritated me the most about this is the fact that this happens to her. She's forced to sleep with this guy. And by the next episode, it's like it never happened.
Well, when you have something major like that, I thought, okay, if you're going to go that way, you could develop this in like a 2 or 3 episode
subplot
arc.
Give me a small subplot, it's there, and then she's rattling. She had problems. She starts dabbling into stuff, pills, whatever.
So and you know what? We don't always love those, but at least there's something to give the character something to do. With Gina, we've seen her as being the really pretty like sock hop girl from the 50s look, kind of and all that, but very, very striking and in here and very confident. And it's like you should have no shortage of men, and yet for some reason you're waiting on Sonny, and he screws you early on while he's still married. Then you get together with him again, and then you and it's like there's no.
Don't worry, you get a hold on your horses. She finds Liam Neeson later. and then what's really annoying about this show is that they repeat the same story again in season 4, where she's forced to sleep with a mafia guy.
Oh,
it's like
when in doubt, go back to the well,
right? Like I said, I would have loved to have. I mean, it's not as bad as watching a Kolchak. I love Kolchak the Night Stalker, or the Night Stalker,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like it when there's no like we're just gonna pretend we didn't do this and just kind of distance ourselves from that, because it just seems like it's like, hey, at least you can make a mistake, but at least try to like do it cleverly. Say like, okay, we're gonna work it in, and then we're gonna try and slowly fade it away. Like I don't like it when the people do stuff and then they don't. The next writer is like, oh shit, I'm just gonna ignore that what happened to that character, because they have multiple writers sometimes and different directors, which kind of like it's the problem with comic books right now. There's no continuity and stuff, and I just felt and they could do it. It's just that no one really wants to put the effort into it. I just don't like that in TV shows. I don't like it in movies. I don't like it in any form of media. But it's just like if you're gonna go that route, then don't do a serious episode like this.
Right.
It's just dumb.
It's not that the episode, you're right, that it's bad, because it's not. It's just it's not entertaining. It's not fun, and so you're watching it going, okay, it's doing this and that. And then you're like, oh, this happens. Oh, then you're like, how come I haven't really been conditioned as a viewer to look for this before or whatever. And so I've always said season 2 to me is the best one because it's the funnest. It's got the greatest stars, but it knows what it is in season 2. And then it gets so big in season 3, they kind of like jump the shark a little bit. And I understand you need to pivot and everything. And again, We saw with Glades, recently in our review on that episode,
Yeah.
how it was different, but they presented a part of Florida in the South that
But I
exists
had
today, the good old boys and stuff, and they did a good job of it. But that might be lost on people today. Who wants to see this in an episode? And if you're trying to do it just to say we can be serious, like a Hill Street Blues or something else, okay, that's fine. But what is it you're trying to be? Don't outdo what another show does better than you.
That's the thing, though. This show was meant to be nothing like the other shows. That's why the whole formula is different. And it's like after these episodes, they decide to ignore the stuff and just get more and more kind of like more happy, more fun stuff. Sonny being able to use the boat more often, Tubbs, fighting back and forth, one of them's being blinded by a woman that they're falling in love with because they're thinking with their other head, just stupid stuff like that. And the music like the guests get great, especially in season 2. You get Phil Collins comes on. We have
Ted Nugent.
Yeah, Gustino Fringe, Giancarlo Esposito.
Yep.
Not only does he play 3 different characters, but they all get whacked. But like I said, this felt out of place, and there was no reason for it to even be in this series unless you're going to put it in later on. What if you want to do the serious ones where everyone's just started dropping off because when you start acting like in all the other stations, then what's the point of watching you? I'll just go watch something else.
At the time here in late 84, like I say, the show was Friday night. It didn't get big until reruns, which is like in 85, in the summer of 85.
Yeah.
And fall of 85, it blew up,
so
right?
It just felt like they're throwing things at the wall.
At the time, if you look at the TV shows, like Cheers was really popular. A bunch of shows. If you look at cop shows, they were getting really kind of silly at this point, where they'd have like BJ and the Bear. My personal favorite that I still watch this day because it entertains me no end, and that would be William Shatner and what's the name of the show?
DJ Hooker.
Hooker, yeah, because I've been wanting to do that forever, and you know what it is from episode 1. Even though they might deal with weird, goofy stuff or whatever, and it's outrageous and incredible and insane, and you go, "That's the '80s for you." This one, you're like, "Man, at least let them drive around in the Cadillac having some fun first." Because Newton did not bring it this episode.
No.
I'm not. I guess I'm supposed to laugh, but I don't know.
But I said this show is supposed to be the MTV of shows. It was created to be work with MTV music videos and all celebrities and the music coming out. That was the whole point of it. Even though season 1 starts with Crockett and Tubbs pretty much being 40 years old, it's there's no way. I don't buy it in their 30s. There's no way. But like I said, it was meant to be the more hip kind of show. It's the guys you call, kind of like, and also bringing in, doing a serious episode like this randomly, and on top of that, dissing my boy Paulie, making him look like a weasel and like a bad guy, especially after he was a good guy in Rocky IV,
Oh boy, man, him blowing.
You think that's what happened with Rocky? You think this is still Paulie from Rocky, and he decided, he got a little bit of taste for the money?
He's underrated. I never really know it. And this is no too anyway. This show's over 40 years old. Well, let me ask you this, because we're pretty much winding down here.
Yeah.
We're about halfway through season 1. Generally speaking, forgetting the taste that this episode leaves you in your mouth, well, how are you feeling about the show up to this point?
Up to this point, I think the show's been phenomenal. I love the 2-parter series, or at least everybody knows it as like as a one thing story, like My Brother's Keeper and stuff. And then you have then them taking Codone. On top of that, it's just been a fun series. I think the only episode that kind of brought it down, not as far as this for me, was the Great McCarthy race. I thought that was probably one of the more boring episodes, but but here's the thing, it had more of a party vibe than this. This was more just serious. This felt like I was watching in the heat of the night, and it shouldn't. I should never feel that way, and that's why season 3 it dipped in quality, and I can see why they had to get rid of somebody. I'm not gonna say who it was. It's for spoilers if you haven't seen it.
Right.
You gotta wait, man. another 50 years almost. But
Look, as much as it's easy to crap on, like, say, T.J. Hooker, Shatner's still entertaining.
but
The
they
situations
had a
that
formula
you
and
know
they
what's
stuck to
gonna
it.
happen every 15, 20 minutes, the way things build up. It's just it's a
Every
template. We talk
every
about
episode
so
is
well.
is done a certain way. They build it. Yeah, it's you know, someone gets murdered. The guys come on the scene, and then it's like Columbo. Columbo puts introduce suspects. They seem kind of shady, and then he solves at the end. He's like, hey, one more thing. It's like this, and his car gets hit. It's like there's a formula to every episode. This felt like
He
they just
crashed so many cars on T.J. Hooker.
yeah. Like I said, they had their formulas, and this felt like, well, since no one's really watching us, let's try something else to see if that gets a little more views. Okay, then it didn't do so well. Let's go back.
Yeah, I will say that, for, this season for me, I agree with you. You gotta know
Yeah,
what you are
yeah,
or what you're trying to achieve so you know when you get there that you're doing it, and then you maintain as much as you can because staying on top is always difficult, and then times change, and the one thing that as we, over the next few years, continue to review this show and our other TV shows and movies that we do is when we get back to themes, I'll be curious to kind of get back in my mind and go, "Well, wait a minute." People kinda shit on Miami Vice going, "Oh, it's just like MTV and it's just music videos. It's not a
yeah.
real deep show." So there's a part of me that goes, sometimes they'll make an episode like this just to say F you to any of the critics and the people out there and the studio chiefs and all that, because you fail to realize if you're artistic trying to do something, that's one thing, but if the studio wants you to do another, you always have that fight. And when you compromise, who ends up being right? Well, studio doesn't care as long as they make money. And if they
See,
think something's going to make money, then they're going to tell you to do it. And that was always the struggle. So I feel when they got big enough, they had to do some compromising to stay big, have the inflated salaries and everything else there too that they did
can
have.
you
And in all
imagine?
seriousness, I think they felt like they probably had something to prove because it definitely changes, like you said, from
Yeah.
season 2 to
Was
3.
was this NBC or CBS?
Oh, I think it was NBC. I think.
Do you imagine if they would have brought in Peter Falk in here and just for an episode or whatever? Like she starts seeing some of these other actors.
All I know is Peter Falk, whenever he did something, he printed money. I mean, to be honest with you, and I didn't get it
Yeah,
at the time because I wasn't watching Columbo at that
because
time, but my
you bring
parents watched it, and they said it was the best show ever,
because you
you
said
know?
you're bringing in all these people from and a lot from other things works of life. Imagine if you brought in if his embassies just bringing in from some of their past shows, bringing in someone from the Mod Squad who's now playing, a former cop, or just something in there. Yeah, because remember they started doing the star power, so they started bringing all the celebrities on season 2.
Yeah.
I would have, I honestly, if I was growing up watching this and I had watched Miami 5-0 or some of the other guys, and all of a sudden, like, hey, is that a Beach Boy? How's it a Beach Boy being on? And it's like, I would have popped for more of that stuff.
Mhm.
But they didn't really do that much though. They had some, they had some good actors on here, at least for celebrity stuff, but not a lot. That I mean, it wasn't until later seasons, like Wesley Snipes and
Oh, you
what's
got
his
tons of athletes and other
yeah.
people on the show for sure.
Sure, yeah.
Easton, who had already hit big.
Bill Paxton and Wesley Snipes didn't appear until season 3.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but
Bill Russell.
yeah, man, bringing in anybody. There's so many old dudes. George Kennedy, he could be ex-cop. There's all these old timers like Charlton Heston. Hey, yeah, he's a corrupt politician.
Yeah. That's such an I wanna say so much about Charlton Heston, but I'll table it for now. He's more of a love
Yeah.
boat guy.
But I
No,
mean,
it's
I was
everything. So it was made for
yeah,
an audience that was gonna stay home for that sort of thing, not the
yeah.
people going out partying, right?
So my other question is, so it didn't pick up until after reruns through watching it. So then the ratings weren't really that high then.
Nope.
If it started out as a hit without, right from the beginning, do you think this episode would have got greenlit? Or do
Yes.
you?
Only because if you look back then, like I was telling you, generally speaking, and it's not exact, but let's say you're gonna have a 22 episode season 1, right?
Yeah.
You've got the money, you got the budget. They can pull it at any time, right?
Mhm.
But let's just say you're contracted for 22 episodes. You're going to shoot 11, then you're going to have a 4-week break, then you're going to shoot like, 11 more. So you shoot, you bank 2 episodes, you're shooting your 3rd episode while episode 1 plays. You're constantly doing it week to 10 days. Boom, that 1 hour is shot, edited, sent for distribution, all that stuff. So it can be edited, mixed, all that stuff. And that's it. Now look at something like a show you and I review that's modern, like Reacher. 10 million bucks plus an episode. Looks fantastic. We like the action
Mhm.
and the fight scenes. We can argue about the acting and the choice of the
But
books that they go
but
on,
is the
but it
story
takes 2
good?
fucking years to get
Yeah.
6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke. So, I do think it would have been greenlit only because of the quick turn nature of television at that time.
Well, yeah, production costs or everything too, manpower, and plus, remember, if you're filming in certain areas, well, now people got unions, you got to pay them higher wages now.
Correct.
Yeah, and all this stuff. It's just like McDonald's, man. You raise $15 an hour. Guess what? You need to want to raise to go first. Everything gets raised up.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, and plus everybody's using all this fancy CGI stuff that they put in there. Now, if Miami Vice, they're using just like if you look at Dukes of Hazzard as for example,
Very popular,
for
very long-running show.
they destroyed 300 cars of the Dodge Charger and kept having them resurfaced on the property there just keep running,
I'm sure
and
Dodge is more than happy to say, "Here, you don't need another dozen for this season? Be
well,
glad."
I'm just gonna say if you're a Dodge Charger owner that year and stuff, your car is up in value if you still have a nice condition and everything because they were destroying once they starts destroying things, there's less of it, the higher more valuable that comes.
I need more Cadillac. Love the Ferrari, but I need
It's like
more
a
Cadillac.
low print one for comic books,
Mhm.
and then if somebody starts say like perfect example would be like Action Comics one from the 1940s. Now imagine, and I don't know if they did a low print on there, but now imagine we already know that a lot of those comic books did not survive going into the 60s and 70s and 80s because a lot of them fell apart, were destroyed because nobody thought they're going to get any value. Kids were having them, it just kind of crumpled them up, and after a while, the material just dissolves or whatever, especially if it gets moisture in and stuff, and then just whatever. Now imagine that, and then on top of that, they only printed like 500 copies.
Yep.
And so not only that is it's only falling apart because it didn't survive that long because they had nowhere to storage it, but it's also a low print number. It's kind of like when it was, I said, like when you start doing that with the cars and anything like that, I just love the fact that it makes everything the value go up. And honestly, I would rather have people. Oh, I don't praise destroying Dodge Chargers. I love them. They're probably the best cars you could ever have own. But I mean, I would rather have pyrotechnics, actual special effects, versus oh, we're gonna use CGI green screen. Like it's all Avengers. Avengers is 100% green screen with wires, and
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Don't either.
I like this because they'll put like an actual have the cars now in this they probably do have the car on the trailer, they're pulling it, makes it look like they're driving.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's any shows out there where they actually were driving,
Well, they
but
would have to know it. They would have to get a permit. They would have to do it.
yeah,
There's some people
yeah,
who do it. We've seen some of that in here and recycled
but
footage as well.
I would rather
This is the same beach setup that we saw a few episodes ago with the old people there where they were undercover when they had the Uzis and the white van there. It's the exact same place. So you're like, okay, they know that location. They know what works there because they've shot there. So hey, let's shoot this next shootout there. Absolutely.
And they most likely use the same van again.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we won't use the van this next episode. It's broken up, so we got to go with this one story that we're going to have. Okay,
that van, that Crockett and they were in, they always got decapitated. That one, it crashed into it and it hits the top part of the glass. That's the same van that Switek and Zito ride in. That's what it looks like.
Where he meets the original informant, the Twin Peaks guy. I like to think of him there. We've seen that That's where the raised bridge goes up. We saw that already, at least in, I think, the premiere episode or second episode. It's the movie episode, and one other episode during the day. It's just from a different angle.
I forget which one episode. As I just remember that the Crockett had his arm hanging out, and then it's like, wait, no, his arm's inside, and it's back out again. I think that might have been the first episode. And they're in the chase, and that's what it was. It was the Jamaicans. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
The first episode with Noogie. I think it was episode 5. But yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. Tuesday we're gonna have an alternate schedule with some outside commitments we have, but we're going to have something for Tuesday to be determined, probably an action movie. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Look for the young 20-something Professor Pixel to be joining me live as we continue our review of whatever show it is that we're doing. I've already forgotten.
Yeah, Tuesday.
No, Forever Night. How can I forget that? We got our super fans from the Facebook group. Like to give Kevin Dobson, everybody a shout out for that, because a few people joined that were brand new too. Of course,
yeah.
Tank Ferret Presents obviously is welcome here and all that too. I enjoyed the origin story. That's worth exploring at some point. Yep. Have a good night.
No, Tank Ferret is actually someone I know through comic book stuff.
I bet you.
Yes.
I knew there was.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's
the crossover we have with pop culture.
A tank, and it's operated by a ferret.
Good night, everybody.
Talk about a stinky subject. Anyway, though, yeah. Just want to say for Tuesday though, because we will not be doing live at the normal time. Most likely, probably noon Eastern. Nooner, probably.
Nooner.
11 Central, nooner Eastern. So, and look for that if you're awake, or if you're on lunch break, or watch a replay. But thanks for watching, guys. And as always, leave a comment down below what you thought of this episode. Were you as enthused as we were? Clearly not. Or do you think this was a dud episode? Let us know down below in the comment section. Also leave a like, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Miami Vice is free to watch all seasons on Tubi right now.
Good looking prints too. Check it out.
They're definitely good. HD quality. But we'll see you guys later then. And thanks for being here, Marania, and for Tank Ferret, Anthony, and anyone else who might have popped in I did not see, but we'll see you later.
Good night, everybody.